That's right. I absolutely agree. Something that the Quran says, the Quran talks about heaven and hell, not being places, but being actually states of mind. So what we learn in the Moorish Science Temple of America is those particular lessons and exercises that allows for us to master our minds. So in mastering our minds, we know that we actually create, our living conditions or our living mind space. My brother Shay Rail used to always talking about, having the chaotic mind space versus the peaceful mind space and the ability to create this space for yourself. And as a Moorish American, somebody who knows themselves, they know that this ability, that this capacity actually exists within them.
Islam, Islam, Islam. I give praise to Allah and honor to His holy prophet, Noble Ali. I give honor to all of the true and the faithful members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Today, I give honor to freedom. This makes 15 months. 15 months since I walked out of that place. I was there for 243 months, 24 days. Now I've been home for 15 months. It's been ups and been downs, but that I expected that. And to be honest, I expected it to be a whole lot more difficult than it actually was. I mean, truth be told, praise Allah for the Prophet Noble Ali. Because let me get rid of this old banner that's on here. Okay. Praise Allah for the Prophet Noble Ali, because the Prophet Noble Ali, helped me to prepare to do something that I had never done, ever in my life, which was, be a faithful member of society. That's something that I had never done, and for the last 15 months, that's all that I have done. Again, it's not been perfect. Everything, nothing goes, according to the way we plan exactly. Nothing. You understand me? But the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, it tells us that unnumbered foes will stand before the face of man, and these he must overcome. Yea, overcome them every one. So I expected to face, resistance. With that being the case, I want to talk about myself. I really want to share. I really want to share a little bit about me, because a lot of you all, you've never really met me. You don't know me. You see what I post on social media. Maybe you follow Paradigm Shifting the podcast. But other than that, I am very intentional about not being, personal on social media. I don't like to really post pictures of my kids or my grandkids. Yeah, I'm a grandfather. I don't really like to post pictures of my kids, my grandkids. I don't really like to talk about, what's going on in my life, directly and things of that nature, and I'm still not going to really go in depth on a whole lot of that. But I want to give everybody a little background about myself, kind of share, what motivates me. Because the Prophet Noble Ali say the same truth that draws you will drive you. So I kind of want to give you an idea of what has drawn me, to this path, and what drives me now that I'm on this path. Okay. So again, y'all know my name. I'm from Chicago. I was born and raised in Chicago. I was born in Mercy Hospital on June 9th, 1980. For the most part, my mom's raised me, on her own. And I say for the most part, my dad was never there. My dad went on the run from the police when I was 1 year old. He ran. He was all over the country. He was in California. He was in Michigan. He was in Canada. he was on the run. In 1986, he got apprehended, got caught, he went to prison. He wasn't released until 1992. 1992, I finally got an opportunity for the first time in my life to spend some time with my dad. And, he was pretty dope. My dad was real. My dad was very, very intelligent, which my mom used to always tell me that my dad was the smartest dummy that she ever met. So my dad was very, very smart. He taught me a lot. Academically. He motivated me to learn. All right. My dad motivated me to learn. He bought me all types of electronic project kits, and he had me to read books. He knew books that would that I would actually like to read. He introduced me to those things. When I was small, when I was young. But in 1993, my father got locked up again. This time he got locked up for a warrant that was from 1979. The warrant was actually older than I was. I was born, like I said, in 1980. So my father got locked up on this warrant. He went to prison. He did 8.5 years this time. So when he was released, I was 21 years old. Okay, in between that time, I, typical, not quite, but I, ran the streets of Chicago. I did the things that young people do. I smoked weed. I gang banged. I started selling drugs and stuff like that. But the whole time, I, because of my mother. All right. Let me slow down. I think I'm going too fast. I told you about my father. Okay. My mom. Islam, dog, it's Baylock, Islam, dog. My mom, when I was 9 years old, I was in the 4th grade. Actually, it was when I was in the 3rd grade. It was the last day of school, the very last day of school. I come home from school, and my mom's just sitting on our front stoop. I grew up in Motown in Chicago, right? 5255 South Aberdeen. All right. So my mom was sitting there in front of our apartment eating some Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And my mom's tell me when I come in, it's the last day of school. She say, next year when school start, before you go outside every day, you're going to read for 45 minutes. You're going to read. You're going to start reading. And I thought she was playing. I didn't take her serious. Like, all right, whatever. So I go the whole summer. I enjoyed the summer like we did back then. When we was kids, we enjoyed the summer. I enjoyed the summer. And then the first day of school, I go out, I go to school. And when I come home, I come running in. My friends and stuff, they all out there waiting for me to waiting for me to come out and play. And my mom's she's sitting right there in the same spot, and she's eating her Haagen-Dazs ice cream. My mom loves Haagen-Dazs ice cream. So my mom's sitting there, she's eating her Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And my mom's just like, what you finna do? And I'm like, I'm finna change clothes. Then I'm finna go, Matthew and then waiting on me. I'm finna go play with them. Matthew was my best friend at the time. I'm finna get ready to go play. So my mom like, nah, you finna go in there and change clothes. And it's a book back there on the dining room table. You're gonna read it for 45 minutes. So I'm like, what? Like, who the freak reads books? Like, is you serious? I'm 9 years old now. So I go back there, like, my mom wasn't no joke, man. Let me tell y'all something about Mama Bay. My mama ain't no joke. My mama kick butt, period. Period, point blank. So you ain't finna be doing no whole lot of bucking. Mama say do this, you gonna do it. If you don't do it, my mama is gonna kick your butt. Simple as that. So as bad as I wanted to just be like, man, I'm fixing to get ready to go outside and play, I took my tail back there. I seen that book sitting on the dining room table. My mama had laid out one of them white dry-off towels because my mama worked. She was a CNA. She worked at the hospital, so she had doggone cuffs. She was cuffing a bunch of towels. I don't know how. Anyway, so she got the towel right there. She got the book right there, and she got a clock. She got a clock right there too. So I go in there, change my clothes, come out, sit down at the dining room table, look at the book. The book is the biography of General Custer. So I'm like, what the freak is General Custer? This don't even look interesting. So I read the first page. I sit there, stare at the clock, wait for 45 minutes to go by. And I go running out, like I'm gonna get ready to go outside. So my mom is still sitting there guarding the threshold. She's standing on what she said. So my mom like, where you going? And I'm like, I'm finna get ready to go out and play. So my mom's just like, did you read that book? I'm like, yeah, I read the book, Mom. I'm like, dang, So my mama say, okay, tell me tell me about it. What did he say? So that man, y'all, I read the first page. So I say, man, he had a wooden gun. His brother gave him a wooden gun, and he was riding a horse. That's what I read on the first page. My mama told me, boy, if you don't get your butt back there and read that doggone book. Now let me tell y'all the secret. Now I'm finna tell y'all something. I'm finna add context to this story. My mama didn't know how to read. All right. See, my mama didn't know how to read. So, and by this time in my life, I knew that my mom didn't really know how to read. So that's why I thought that I could just tell my moms, what was on the first page, and she'd go for it. But my mama was prepared for it. I don't know how she got prepared, but my mama was prepared for me. She told me, get your butt back there and read that book. So I went back there. Now I know that I actually had to read this book. So I opened up the book and I started reading. And it was pretty doggone interesting. But after 45 minutes, I put the book down. I went outside, and I played with my friends. But I'm not gonna lie to y'all. What I had read, it was sticking to me. I was curious. I wanted to know what happened next. So the next day I came in, and it was the same thing. Same white towel, same book, same clock. I sat down and I started reading the book. And the next thing I know, I look up and my mom come walking in the dining room, and she look at me and she like, Meech, what you doing? And I'm like, I'm reading this book. So my mama look at it, she like, your friends is outside waiting on you. So I look at the clock, and when I look at the clock, I realized that I had been sitting there for a couple hours reading this book. So I go out and I go play with my friends. But now I done fell in love with reading the book. I can't wait to get back to the book. So when I come in, I hop in the bathtub, I take my bath, and I grab my book. And thus, this had become my life. Even when I was a young person and I was out there running the streets and stuff, I was reading books. You understand me? So, and it all started with the books that my mom gave me. My mom, she gave me a whole bunch of biographies. Now, again, my mom, she could barely read. I mean, barely read at all. You understand me? So, but she would give me all these biographies, Geronimo, Crazy Horse, all of these different, and I loved to read these books. And then, by the time I was 12 years old, my mama gave me a book that kind of helped to mold and shape my paradigm. She gave me Roots. And I say what y'all want to say about Alex Haley, and they say he plagiarized the book and that he didn't actually, it wasn't really his life story, he just that and the third, or whatever the case may be. With that being the case, still, it's an incredible story. You understand me? It's an incredible story, and it brought to light something, in the Asiatic community that, I came to learn that Asiatics didn't know they wasn't hip. I spoke to some elders who told me, like, when the movie Roots first came out, like they was shook into their core because they had heard about slavery and knew that it had, that it was something that had happened, but didn't nobody really know, what the Asiatic people who, were subject to that type of suffering actually went through. Didn't nobody know. And then this movie, because of this book, because of this story that Alex Haley told, it gave imagery to this part of history that, some individuals was trying to write off as if it never happened. You understand me? So I read the book. I read it since then. I've read it a couple times. But anyhow, I was 12 years old when I first read it. Right. So my mom's made me a reader, and I love to read. you know, and I would go out and I would be with my friends and my homies and stuff, and then I would talk to them about, you know, what I was reading. And I would always talk to them about what I was reading. And then it got to the point where they would look at me, you know, like I was crazy. They'd be like, man, Snake, man, what is you talking about? Like, you know, because I be, you know, sharing these things I was reading. Because back then, you got to think, you know, like, you know, I was born in 1980, you know, but by the time now I'm out here in the streets, it's the 90s. You understand me? So when Behold the Pale Horse and Illuminati 666 and all these books was first written, you know, I was a reader. And I'm gonna tell you how the ethers work. You understand me? Allah was bringing people, even though I was real live in the streets. Allah was still bringing people into, you know, my etheric vibration, who was giving me this material. You know, like I'll never forget. You know, when I was a short, I was a little kid. You know, this even before my mom got me reading. I'm walking down the streets. I find a brand new copy of Message to the Black Man. Found it. It was just laying on the sidewalk. You know, I picked it up and took it home, and it was years before I was able to read it, but I read it. You understand me? And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit more about that too. I found the Quran. I found the Quran laying in the street. Not at the same time I found Message to the Black Man. This was years later. By this time, I was a young teenager. And I'm out, you know, in the streets doing what I do, and behold, a Quran, a Yusuf Ali version of the Holy Quran of Muhammad laying in the street. And I pick it up and I take it home, and I'm a reader. I read it. You understand what I'm saying? I read it. So all this time I was reading this stuff, and then I would, you know, sometimes I would be, you know, like enthused about this stuff, and I'll be talking to the guys and be like, man, I read such and such and so and so, or I read this, that, and the third, and I'd be like, man, you know, trying to set a demonstration with them, and they would be looking at me and they'd be like, man, Snake, man, what is you talking about? You understand me? Like they didn't read. They didn't read, and they didn't understand what I was saying when I would, you know, be trying to talk to them about what I was reading. They didn't understand. So I gave up. I gave up. I stopped trying to talk to people about what I was studying and what I was reading. I just started keeping it to myself. You know, so I'm out here gang banging, you know, and I'm getting older, but I'm still reading. What happened was I started to think that everybody was ignorant, that everybody was dumb, that nobody wanted to know anything, you know. So I would be learning things, and this small stuff, like I found out years later, like, you know, right before, you know, coming into the Moorish Science of America, that even though, you know, I was a reader and I was reading books, because a lot of the books that I was reading now, I'm telling y'all about, you know, some of the better books that I was reading, but a lot of the books I was reading straight garbage. You understand me? It was straight trash, trashy novels that didn't do nothing, you know, for the Moab academically at all. You understand me? They didn't do nothing, you know. So with that being the case, though, I just stopped trying to talk to my partners, you know, about what I was reading. I gave up on that, you know. So I just kept it and helped hold me in, you know. So you know, I ran around in the streets. I gang bang. I was going in and out of jail. Ever since I was a juvenile. You know, from the time I was in the dope. Then, you know, when in 2003, that was when I got, you know, sentenced to 21 years. I went and did 20 years, 3 months, and 24 days of that sentence. All right. Messing up in prison. While I was in prison, I was just upset. Like walking into that situation, you know, for me it was upsetting. It was, you know, all this time placed in front of me, and I did not even have that much time behind me, if you understand what I'm saying. here it is, I'm 23 years old, and I'm asked to, you know, do 20 years in prison. And it's like, that's forever, you know, like my whole entire life that I've already lived is about that much time. So it felt like a life sentence, is what I'm basically trying to say. It felt like a life sentence, and from the beginning, out the gate, that's the way I approached it. I approached it as if, I had a life sentence. I went in the prison, not, thinking that I would ever walk out. So I don't even want to really talk about all that, but that's the way I went about during that time. Like I was never going to see, freedom ever again. With that being the case, it took me like 65 days, and I was back in court receiving another 33-month sentence on top of the 21 years that I got, and it took me 5 years to serve 1 day of my sentence. It was 5 years before I had actually woke up and had less time than I went to sleep with. It took me 5 years. I like I said, I got 33 months added to my sentence, and then I ended up losing over 2 years worth of good time. All right. So it was after a riot. We had got into it. We had been in a riot. It was I was in Lee County, Virginia. So we had got into a riot in Virginia, and I got shipped to Coleman, Florida, Coleman USP1. I got sent to Florida. I was in Florida, and when I got there, the institution was on lockdown. They put me in a cell with a brother. They called him Michael. They called him Miami Red. His real name is Michael Lisby. He was a lifer. He got locked up back in the day, getting a bunch of cocaine from the Colombians and all that type of stuff, So I went in the cell with him, and he asked me, what's your name, where you from, how you get here, So I told him, about the situation, the little riot that I had just been involved in, how I got there, and he was like, man, we on lockdown. I don't got much, but I'm your celly. So he gave me a little cosmetics, what he had. He opened up his locker. He really had nothing in it. I'm talking about locker almost empty. You hear me? Locker almost empty. Then he this was the thing. This was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back, or should I say, got me to jump on the camel's back. He said, you want something to read? Mind you, I love to read. So I'm he like, man, some books right there on the side of the locker. So I look on the side of the locker. It's a pile of urban novels. I'm talking about, it's a big pile of urban novels right there on the side of the locker. Dutch 1, 2, all of that stuff. And I read those books at the time. I read that type of stuff, but I was also 27 years old. Looked at him, his whole head was gray. And I took a closer look. For the first time, I took a closer look. His whole head was gray. His pants were sagging. He was standing, he had the chair posted up right at the door so he could watch TV. And he told me he had been locked up for 20 years. And I looked at him and I say, I don't want to be like this. Like, I don't want to be pants sagging, head full of gray hair, reading urban novels with an empty locker after 20 years in prison. Like, I didn't want to be that. So but I was on my way. That's the direction I was heading in. I was actually heading in that direction to become exactly that. So I was like, what do I do? I didn't know what to do. What do I do? And the first thing that I heard a voice in my head, like real talk. It said Moorish Science Temple of America. Now, it wasn't out the blue or nothing like that. No spookism or nothing like that. Because the whole time that I had been locked up, The only people who had ever, tried to give me any type of, knowledge or game to try to help me out, they always was Moors. And it would, and I would never know none of these. Like, I didn't hang out with these people. I didn't know none of these people. Like, I could be anywhere. Like I could be, sitting in the chow hall at the table all by myself, and a brother just pull up and there'll be a Moorish American, and then they'll just start talking about the prophet and talking about some aspect of his teachings that would always, be in relation to something that I was thinking about and going through at the time. I mean, it had been happening ever since I got in jail. Ever since I got there, it had been happening. Even when I could be in transit, it didn't matter. These Moors, they were like angels, and they would just come at the right time and say all the right stuff. But I was still hard head, stiff necked, and I had a hard heart. So I wouldn't just open up and be like, take me where you going, or whatever. But it stuck with me. And this time, that's what I thought. I thought about the Moorish Science Temple of America. So I asked Miami Red if it was any Moors there in the unit. And long story short, he ended up getting one of his homies to send me a Quran. His homie sent me everything: his Quran, his questionnaire, his Moorish literature. He didn't use it. It still looked brand new, like it had never been opened. And he never asked for it back. So but I got it and I started reading it. And a lot, all praise due to Allah. I ended up, getting with the Moors and studying with the Moors. Whenever I wasn't doing my Moor jump, I used to lie. I love to drink. You know what I mean? I love to drink. I love to gamble. I'd be at the card table all day long, gambling, playing poker and all that type of thing, right? So whenever I wasn't doing that, I started to slide off and go demonstrate with the Moors until I stopped doing that and just started spending all my time with the Moors. I'll be sitting there, from sun up to sundown studying with the Moors. Yeah. And I ended up joining the Moorish Science Temple of America. And by the time I made the conscious decision to join the Moorish Science Temple of America, I knew that the Moorish Science Temple of America wasn't perfect. I knew that there were, that the temple, had its own issues. My decision was based upon the fact that I had been gang banging all my life and contributing my energy to trying to support and strengthen something that was doomed from the start. So I said, well, why not turn my energy and give it to something positive, something that now after studying the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America and getting to know Allah's prophet, that I believe completely and wholeheartedly was actually beneficial to not just me but to my people, that this would literally make my conditions better, that it would have me, instead of to be a liability and a burden on the people whom I love, but it can actually create value, can make me something, an asset, to my community and to my family most of all. That's what I believe. So I was willing to, come into the Moorish Science Temple of America and be a part of solving whatever problems that there was, whatever I could, to do whatever it was that I could as a faithful member. So that's the way I came into this, right? And that's what I did, for all those years after that. I strove hard. I wrote. I wrote while I was there. Not only did I just study. Some people, we like to acknowledge the fact that our sheiks and sheikses are very knowledgeable. And that's a wonderful thing because, in times of need, when it's time to solve problems, then we do have our lessons to lean upon for answers, but, me personally, I became a doer. I became a problem solver. I became a person who actually get active, like when there was issues on the compound between, it didn't matter to me. It didn't matter. There's sometimes it's issues between the Mexican mafia and and the Pisces or whatever the case may be, then I would actually go out and mediate, get in the middle, and bring these two, bring peace, where there was about to be destruction. And I would always demonstrate, in love, when there was ever, issues anywhere, it didn't matter to me, what the person looked at, like, who the group was, where they was from, I would always come and I would demonstrate, the Prophet Noble Ali, he commands us, he say, he wants us to be loved as he is loved, and I took that to heart. I felt like, I was really changing when people would start to love me. It was always, you always had that respect in the streets. People respect you, but some of the things that they respect are not even respectable. You understand me? But love is totally different. This is what I learned, out the gate as a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I learned that love was something that was just so powerful. It's a saving power. You understand me? And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to give it to people so that they could experience it, they could have it, and that they could know it. And I wanted to receive it in return. Now, the pure heart would love and not demand love in return. So I never would demand that an individual love me back. While at the same time, I knew that if I was really authentic, if I would really be faithful, of course, people hated the prophet Jesus. Of course, people are gonna hate me. People are gonna, despise the fact that I'm, selflessly acting for a cause that they don't understand. The public is unstable and ungrateful. This is something that we know. I learned this, while at the same time, there will be people who, because the world is so full of beautiful and wonderful people, there will be people who would be grateful and they would love you in return. And this is the truth. Okay. When you said, remember I said in the beginning that the prophet said the same truth that draws you, it will drive you. I'm telling y'all that this is what drives me. Okay. So I want to tell y'all that much about myself. While at the same time, I'm gonna tell you go a little deeper. Islam, Quincy Jones, Islam, Mo. All praise due to Allah, Mo. Thank you for all the support, man. Thank you. Please share the podcast. You know what I mean? Share it. Really share it, because I want people to know who I am. If you're watching, anybody watching, just hit the share button. Unless you ain't feeling it. If you ain't feeling it, Islam, all praise due to Allah. But if you are, then hit the share button. All right, do that for me. So okay, but I love sports. I'm a sports fanatic. I love the Bears. Like I said, I'm from Chicago. I love the Bears. I love the White Sox. I love the Bulls. I can't stand the Green Bay Packers. I hate the Green Bay Packers. Period, point blank. I hate y'all. Any Green Bay Packer fans or Green Bay Packers that's watching, I can't stand you or the horse you rode in on, and we gonna kick your butt. Yeah, real talk. So I love football. I love that. You know what I mean? I love helping people, and most of all, I love learning. I love learning. Real talk. You know, to me, there is nothing better. There is no greater feeling in the whole wide world than to be able to absorb and take in and learn something new, and then be able to give it to somebody else right when they need it. Oh man, that feels good. That feels so good. It feels so good. I love learning. I love that. You understand me? And so what else can I tell y'all about me? I've been home for 15 months. I got out February 14th, 2024. February 14th, 2024, I was released from prison. Um, since then, man, life did its thing. Life threw a lot at me, you know, Supreme Grand Governor, you know, demonstrating on the soul plane right now. The Sheikh Arnil Bay. Sheikh Arnil Bay, honestly, Sheikh Arnil Bay, the Supreme Grand Governor. That mode, he changed form. You know, he completed his task here. He rolled out, right when I got out. That was, we can never plan for these type of things. Allah knows best. So that happened. I came home, in my own home. I had so much to deal with, just with my family. But I want to share something with y'all. One of the major things that used to bother me, that used to just hurt me so much when I was incarcerated, was when I would, get letters or get on the phone and talk to my family, and they would be going through things, and I wouldn't be able to help them. Man, I hated that so much. I hated that so much. Like when my children and their mom would be going through things, and I loved them. I loved them so much, and they would be going through things would be happening, and I couldn't even be there to help them. And I used to pray to Allah, please let me go home so I could be with my family and my friends and my loved ones, and I could help them help them, through the trials and tribulations that they face. So Allah finally let me out, and He made me stand on those prayers. He made me stand on those prayers. So y'all know that paradigm shifting the podcast have been, that was something that I started doing, and consistently. I grew my YouTube platform to almost 6,000 subscribers. All praise due to Allah. I had another Facebook page before this one that, had a lot of reach. Then Facebook started acting crazy with it, so I stopped using that. Before, for like since last August, I haven't been really posting a lot, really creating a lot of videos, or even paying attention to what was going on in social media because I was dealing with some stuff at home. I was dealing with some stuff, and as that started to temper down, I had my family, going through things, and I had to be there for them while at the same time build a temple and build my business. If y'all didn't know, Bay Legacy Contracting, LLC. Yeah, I'm doing that. I had a great opportunity fall into my lap, and I want to share this. So for anybody, y'all know, like I said, you see what the topic is. What's the title? Let's Build. You understand me? So I might seem like I'm all over the place. So what? All right. So I want to give y'all some game though. As a matter of fact, I hope y'all listen. Pay attention to this. Anybody who got a business or looking to start a business, that what they call in dealing with food, shelter, and clothing. You might be doing construction, renovation, cleaning, any of those type of things. I didn't plan this. This is how law works. The opportunity came for me to be able to subcontract my business to another business. Okay. Which what it did and for a good value. So when you say subcontractor, so like, okay, so I started off, even though my plan is to set up this renovation construction company. So I gotta hire a team and get the right people, to be on the crew. So with that being the case, I do pressure washing as well. So that's something I say, hey, you know what? I can start doing that immediately. So I had a guy, say, hey, I got a proposal for you. I can subcontract your company. Okay, I wash windows. I can subcontract your company. I can pay you this base pay. Okay, which is now obviously electrician. Before that, well, I'm gonna pay you more than that. Okay, I'm gonna pay you more than that. Then I'm gonna hire you got an employee, I'm gonna hire them, pay them too. Okay. And I get a lot of business. I get a lot of big people, wanting, pressure wash jobs. So what I'll do is I'll in turn turn those jobs over to you. Commercial jobs, I'll take a percentage, for giving you the jobs, a small percentage. Residential jobs are all yours. So now what that does is, because while I'm going to work as an electrician, that's time that I'm spending where I can't promote my own personal business, where I can't, go out and grow my company because I'm working for someone else. But now I have the opportunity to get out into the field where I can promote my company, where I am around people, who need the type of service that I provide. Okay. And I get paid more than I was making doing electrical work. All praise to Allah. So if you have a company, then it's kind of difficult sometimes to get started. It's not dissimilar to when I was out there in the streets when I first started selling dope. You know, it was slow at first. You know, you got to let people need to know that you got the product. It's the same thing with any business. People need to know that you got the product. People need to know that you provide the service. Okay. So try to find someone who may be in the field similar, you know, who are getting those type of calls, you know, for what you offer. And give them a little something so that they can in turn send those leads your way. It speed up the process so much. It'll speed up the process so much. All right. So yeah, I want to share that with the boards. And what else? I think that's about it for now. That's about it. Yeah. All praise due to Allah for sending us the prophet, which will all be honest to the faith. I love y'all. I appreciate every last one of you. You know, and I want to say this too, you know, be yourself. Unapologetic, be yourself. Don't allow, you know, others to do something that would cause you to not be the unadulterated version of yourself. Be you, be who you are, no matter what. Trust me. Trust me. I've been there. I just told you. I'm a nerd, okay? I didn't tell, as a matter of fact, I didn't tell y'all the half of it. Maybe one day, you know, I'll get back on here and I tell you, and I really go a little deeper, more in depth about, you know, who I am, you know, how I feel about myself and how I felt about myself growing up. But trust me, I'm a nerd. When I was in the streets, doing everything that I was doing in the streets, there wasn't one single solitary day that went by that I wanted to be there in the streets. Not one day, right? In my mind, I had to be there. I had to be there. Okay? So I was not being myself. Okay? I was not being myself. I did never want to be a gangbang or a drug dealer. I wanted to go to college and do something. I didn't know what that something was exactly. So I experimented with numerous things. Okay, that's how I come to develop so many different, you know, talents. You know, learn so many different trades. It's because I was on a wide search for myself. It wasn't until I was in prison and I went into the chapel and I seen a man, Eric Bozeman, stand up on the podium and start to teach the truth about man. And I said, that's what I want to do. It wasn't until I seen someone do it that I was able to know that that is what I wanted to do. Okay? But I knew what I didn't want to do. And what I didn't want to do was what I was doing. So please be yourself, Islam.
That's right. I absolutely agree. You know, something that the Quran says, the Quran talks about heaven and hell, you know, not being places, but being actually states of mind. So what we learn in the Moorish Science Temple of America is those particular lessons and exercises that allows for us to master our minds. So in mastering our minds, we know that we actually create, you know, our living conditions or our living mind space. You know, my brother Shay Shay Rael used to always talking about, having the chaotic mind space versus the peaceful mind space, and the ability to create this space for yourself. And as a Moorish American, somebody who knows themselves, they know that this ability, that this capacity actually exists within them.